Welcome to Talk of Africa 360, your source for insightful news, analysis, and thoughtful commentary. If you value informed perspectives and fact-based reporting, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss an update. Disclaimer: the content on this channel is based on reliable public sources and credible online information. It is intended strictly for educational and analytical purposes. We do not promote or endorse political violence, hate speech, or any form of discrimination. Our goal is to inform, not to inflame. Thanks for being here. Let's stay informed together.
You're watching Talk of Africa 360, where African stories are told by African voices. We bring you an extraordinary report from Burkina Faso, a story of precision, sovereignty, and a growing media war over the right to self-defense. Captain Ibrahim Traore, leader of Burkina Faso's transitional government, has never been known to mince words, but recent events have pushed him to draw a line in the sand. While attending the Victory Day parade in Moscow, flanked by Russian military officials and standing shoulder to shoulder with President Vladimir Putin, Traore was also commanding another front, not with boots on the ground, but with drones in the skies above Djiba, a town in northern Burkina Faso. An intelligence-verified militant offensive, over 1,000 strong, launched a coordinated assault, attempting to take advantage of Traore's absence. But what seemed like an opportunity to destabilize the country quickly turned into a catastrophic miscalculation. While the insurgents moved in, Burkina Faso's Defense Command, guided by a coalition of Russian, Chinese, and North Korean military tech experts, unleashed a silent counter-operation. No air raids, no ground troops, just drones, pre-deployed, pre-targeted, and fully autonomous. The first drone sowed panic with acoustic warfare. The second drove the militants into a kill zone. The third, armed with AI-guided targeting, executed a precision strike, sparing civilian zones, tracking verified threats, and eliminating over 1,000 combatants in under 40 minutes. No Burkinabe soldier fired a weapon, no civilian infrastructure was touched. To many Africans, it was a moment of pride, a sovereign military defending its people without foreign troops, Western intelligence, or IMF advisors. But to the Western press, the story was different. Just days after the operation, BBC Africa ran a headline accusing Traore's government of civilian casualties, without confirming the source or mentioning the jihadist invasion. Is this about human rights or about controlling the African narrative? And why does the West seem uncomfortable when an African nation successfully defends itself without Western oversight? The real battle isn't just in the Sahel, it's in the headlines. When the US strikes Somalia with drones, it's called strategic. When France bombs Mali, it's counterterrorism. But when Burkina Faso crushed a well-armed insurgency, it's controversial. Traore's decision to align with Eastern partners like Russia and China, rejecting Western military aid and IMF conditions, has fueled quiet hostility in foreign policy circles. His government is viewed as defiant, not diplomatic.
But many in Africa are asking, is independence now a crime? We defended our land. Why are they not congratulating US? If this happened in Europe, they would call it a victory. The operation in Djibo wasn't just a military maneuver. It was a new doctrine, African-controlled, tech-led, and strategically brilliant. And it poses a direct challenge to decades of Western dominance in African security matters.
The message was clear to insurgents: you are being watched. To the West, Africa doesn't need permission to protect itself. To the continent, sovereignty is no longer a slogan, it's strategy in action. And yet, instead of praise, there was a media campaign portraying the strike as reckless, the leadership as rogue, and the mission as suspect. Why? Because for some powers, an Africa that no longer begs for help is more dangerous than an Africa at war. Across the Sahel, the message is spreading. Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso are deepening defense cooperation. Algeria is pushing back on French influence. Rwanda is manufacturing its own defense systems. And across the continent, a quiet revolution is underway, not with slogans, but with systems. We will stand alone, if we must, but we will no longer kneel. This was not just a drone strike, it was a declaration that African nations can lead their own defense, shape their own alliances, and tell their own stories. Burkina Faso showed what sovereignty looks like in action. And the West's reaction showed just how uncomfortable they are when Africa succeeds without supervision. Over 1,000 militants launched what they thought would be a surprise invasion. Months of planning, weapons stashed, positions secured. Their target, Djibo, and Burkina Faso's morale. Their timing, precise. Traore was out of the country, their assumption. That the country would be vulnerable. They were wrong. From a secure digital command center in Ouagadougou, the response was quiet and lethal. 3 drones. No fighter jets, no US-style air raids. Just precision instruments guided by AI, surveillance data, and nerves of steel. The first drone sowed chaos with sound waves, breaking formation, forcing militants to scatter and regroup. The second herded them toward open ground, funneling them without a single bullet. And the third watched from the sky, nearly silent, cold, calculated. When the time came, it struck, direct, efficient, devastating. Within 40 minutes, the operation was over. Over 1,000 insurgents neutralized. No civilian casualties, not a single Burkina soldier lost. President Traore was briefed in real time. Watching heat signatures flicker and fade, sipping tea in the Kremlin. What the world witnessed was more than just a successful strike, it was proof that Burkina Faso, and by extension, Africa, can defend itself without begging for Western aid, approval, or applause. But just as Africa celebrated a homegrown victory, the Western media struck back, not with facts, but with framing. Within days, the BBC published a headline alleging civilian casualties. No evidence presented, no mention of the thousands of militants. No context, the narrative had shifted. From Burkina Faso defends itself to Burkina Faso under suspicion, and that's the point. Because when Africa wins on its own terms, the West doesn't know how to react. When America strikes in Somalia, it's tactical. When France bombs Mali, it's counterinsurgency. But when an African nation uses drones to eliminate terror, it's controversial. Why? Because power, real power, challenges narratives. And Traore didn't just challenge the narrative, he shattered it. By choosing alliances that offered tools, not lectures, partners, not puppet masters, Traore partnered with Russia, China, and North Korea, not because of ideology, but sovereignty, no NATO boots, no UN mandates. Just African control, African coordination. And African consequences for those who threaten peace. Now, the ripple effect is real. Niger and Mali are deepening their alliance. Algeria is rejecting French interference. Rwanda is building local defense industries. Africa is no longer just defending land, it's defending narrative, policy, and pride. So when Western outlets smear victories like Djibo as excessive force, remember, this isn't about human rights, it's about control. Control of the story, control of the continent. Control of who gets to be a hero. Traore's greatest weapon wasn't the drone, it was conviction. A conviction that Africa no longer needs permission to protect itself. That sovereignty isn't up for negotiation. And that the continent's silence is over. You're watching Talk of Africa 360 for more coverage on the changing face of African power. This is not just the news, this is the new Africa. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And remember, this isn't just news, this is the new Africa.
As reactions continue to pour in from across the continent, one thing is clear. Africa is demanding respect, sovereignty, and accountability. Was this just a diplomatic misstep or a deeper sign of shifting global alliances? We'll be watching closely. If you found this story important, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more real, unfiltered African news. This is Talk of Africa 360, telling the stories that matter.